much too complex, much too complex.
Welcome back to the BlackTrack, where I do commentary and review on movies with an all-black cast or at least a black lead. When a movie comes out that's so successful and so different that it changes the way that we view certain movies, then you better believe that a bunch of other movies are going to come out and copy whatever made that movie successful. That's the situation that we had in the 90s after Boys in the Hood came out, and was not only excellent, but also proved that audiences were willing to pay money to hear the untold stories of hood life rarely talked about outside of certain regions. Personally, I felt like none of them were ever as good as Boys in the Hood, but at the same time, each one attempted to tell a unique story from a different perspective each time. In the case of Menace to Society, Albert and Alan Hughes, collectively known as the Hughes Brothers, decided to go in a complete opposite direction of most of the movies from this time, and kind of give us an exploitative view of crime in Los Angeles. The movie itself is kind of disjointed, and doesn't really have a coherent singular narrative, and the best way to describe it is that it's kind of a documentary style film that had the intention of throwing the horrors of the lifestyle of the main character Kane, played by Tyron Turner, in your face and make you think about it or talk about it. The violence in the film was turned all the way up, and that was on purpose, because this was real life, whether you like it or not. In-your-face imagery could easily backfire on you and your movie, so it's always a good idea to load up your film with talented actors. In that area, Menace to Society doesn't disappoint, because we get a young Lorenz Tate, Jada Pinkett, Samuel L. Jackson, Clifton Powell, and many more. Even the rappers cast in the movie do a good job, mostly because, as usual, they're told to just be themselves. In a sea of so many 1990s California-inspired hood movies, can Menace to Society do enough to stand out from so much competition? Let's BlackTrack and find out. It's kind of funny that the opening scene of Menace to Society is probably its most iconic and memorable one, but it was also an afterthought and was added late in the filming. The Hughes Brothers said that it wasn't trying to play off the real-life tragedy of the murder of Latasha Harlins, who was murdered by an Asian store owner, but I find that hard to believe since that happened 2 years before this movie came out. However, they said it was written before that happened, so believe what you will. Either way, it perfectly sets the tone for the rest of the film, when O-Dog, played by Lorenz Tate, gets so offended that he's treated like a criminal that he decides to straight up murder the couple who owns it. He does it so casually too, but I guess that's the point. Not to victim shame or anything, but why would you open the store in the middle of the hood if you're not gonna like or trust anybody who comes in there? Who did you think was gonna shop there? Kane, played by Tyron Turner, is completely caught by surprise and reacts about how I would if my friend just screwed me in the first degree. Mine is all a standing around and pleading. Negro, you on your own. At least O-Dog was smart enough to take the surveillance tape.
Went to the store just to get a beer. Came out an accessory to murder and armed robbery.
Oh no. Oh no. That's right. Menace to Society is narrated, and I mean nearly the entire film, like a legit 75% of it. It's so unnecessary. Apparently, the Hughes Brothers were inspired by films such as The Godfather and Goodfellas, as usual for directors around this time period. But even Goodfellas didn't have this much voiceover. I guess it's appropriate then that young Kane is played by Brandon Hammond from Soul Food in his very first film, because when I think narration, I think Brandon Hammond. Young Kane didn't even really stand a chance to be raised right, especially with guys like Brahman and OG Bobby Johnson hanging around. Yeah, I know his real name is Glenn Plummer, but his name is Purnell in this movie, and he's always gonna be OG Bobby Johnson to me. On top of all that, he's being raised by drug addict Candy Alexander and criminal Samuel L. Jackson. That's a hell of a combo. The movie makes it seem like Kane's entire life was shaped by this one night. His mom gets high, OG Bobby Johnson gives him alcohol and shows him how to shoot a gun, and his father kills a man who owes him money. And we all know, Sam Jackson don't play by his money. In the present day, adult Kane is about to graduate from high school, and I kind of wish the movie made more of a bigger deal about that. Yeah, we get a little dialogue about it, but I think it would have been more of an impact if the movie was leading to a graduation, instead of just casually mentioning it. He lives with his grandparents, and they're constantly bombarding him with Bible verses. His granddad looks so old, I bet he even pre-ordered his Bible. They only exist to drive home the fact that both Kane's parents are dead. Plus, he's barely there anyway. Instead, he spends most of his time at this girl Ronnie's house, who's OG Bobby Johnson's baby mom, who's played by Jada Pinkett No Smith. Oh yeah, Bobby Johnson is locked up for life, and we never even find out why. Boy, I tell you one thing, the dudes these days don't know how good they have it. because the girls when I was growing up had baggier clothes than the men. What is she wearing, a quad XL? God bless yoga pants, sheesh. Another thing I like about this movie is the long tracking shots. There's several of them, and this one is of Kane greeting everybody at this house party. Of course, this scene was also inspired by Goodfellas, but I don't think that really diminishes it, especially since the Hughes Brothers said they managed to pull it off in only 9 takes. Now that's impressive. While at the party, Kane runs into another one of his friends that's named Sharif, played by Vontae Sweet, who does a complete 180 from his role in Boys in the Hood as the bully who slapped young Doughboy. And I think here is the perfect time to clear up a long-standing rumor that I, and probably many other people, always believed. So as the story goes, supposedly Tupac Shakur was supposed to play O-Dog, but he got into a fight with the Hughes Brothers and was fired from the movie. That story has been circulating since this movie was released, but it's not entirely true. The real story is that Tupac was actually cast to play Sharif, but got upset when he learned that the character was going to be a converted Muslim who used to be gangster. He actually wanted to play O-Dog, but he wasn't what the Hughes Brothers wanted for the character, so he wasn't even considered. Now the fight with one of the Hughes Brothers did happen, but it was way after the film finished shooting, so I hope that clears it up. See, the thing about movies is that the cast can change constantly and drastically from what was originally intended. For instance, the Hughes Brothers originally saw O-Dog as a tall, muscular Debo type character, but instead ended up with the short and skinny Lorenz Tate, so you just never know. I guess Tupac wanted to keep that juice energy going, since the characters are very similar.
This nigga's scared! You acting like a little bitch right now, nigga.
I dare say O-Dog could be considered a Bishop ripoff.
That shit.
Who got some snaps on the petrol? Who got some snaps on the petrol?
My motherfucking
Y'all
pocket
niggas broke in them up, slanging all that shit in the hood, and y'all ain't got no motherfucking money.
Man, y'all go ahead and give this man $1.50 so he could fill up his tank. You know the old belief in movies that if a random character is introduced out of nowhere and it seems a little too wholesome or too good to be true, that they'll probably be taken out? Well, Menace to Society continues that age-old tradition, because Kane's cousin Harold is just a little too perfect and way too much of a positive influence for these kind of films. He drives a BMW, he has a lot of money, and he has his own house. So he's got to go. We can't have that. Some carjackers pull up to the side of his car while he and Kane are headed to get something to eat. And although Harold gets shot, there really should have only been one victim of this crime, because Kane gets a million opportunities to get out and run.
Get your ass up out the car, nigga. Get the fuck out! Break yourself, nigga! Break yourself!
Run, Kane.
Get your motherfucking ass up out the car!
Get out, Kane.
Can't get out the car, man.
What the f, Kane?
Yeah, nigga, I got you all right. Get your motherfucking ass up out the car now!
I mean, damn, what was he waiting on? Since it's painfully obvious that Harold ain't gonna make it, they put Kane into rapper MC8's car and rush him to the hospital. As a side note, just to show you the chaotic nature of filming, the guy laying on the ground here is Albert Hughes, one of the directors. They couldn't get the other guy back in time, so he just stood in, knowing that nobody would ever notice. Am I the only one who grew up thinking that this dude's name was MC8 instead of MC8? Especially since it's spelled weird. It was just me? Alright then. Regardless, MC8 busts through the hospital doors like he's filming a music video. I know I didn't make straight A's in anatomy or anything, but getting shot in the shoulder doesn't cause you to bleed from your mouth, does it? Tell me if I'm wrong. I can take it. This event represents a little bit of a change in Kane and his actions. But once again, the movie doesn't really stress this enough. So it comes across as kind of weird when he decides to get revenge for his cousin's death. I mean, as far as we've seen, Kane was a good dude who was going to be somebody after high school. Yeah, they showed him selling a little drugs outside of school, but that's hardly something that would make me think he had no aspirations. They had to film this guy from the ground up, you know why? Because he's too short. Yet another rapper in this movie. Word to the wise, if you do any dirt in LA, for the love of all things holy, do not go get something to eat at any point afterwards. Just cook at home, dog, because that's how all these dudes get taken out on all these revenge missions. Boys in the Hood, Poetic Justice, and now this. Food is the common denominator. If I could take a cinematography second right quick, I like how they shot Kane in this scene here with the gun on the pillow, with his shoulder wound and cross necklace in the picture. I think it was a missed opportunity to not lean more heavily on the religious angle of this movie. With a name like Kane, I feel like they could have done way more with it. Instead, they kind of relegate it to the background and don't really make it a part of the plot. There's things in it that can be seen as symbolism, but when I listen to interviews from the creators, they say it wasn't intended, which is kind of weird to me, because it seems so obvious. If you didn't know already, the Hughes Brothers went on to direct Dead Presidents, and they not only cast Lorenz Tate again, but also Clifton Powell, who plays Chauncey in this movie. Man, I swear, Clifton Powell is one of those unsung versatile actors. Dude can play any kind of role.
Why you come to this motherfucker so early all the time, man?
You said 1 o'clock?
I don't give a fuck what I said, nigga. Be here tomorrow night about 10:30.
They got away with armed robbery, so why not try to add carjacking to the list? This time they get caught because they didn't even bother to try to threaten the security guard, and he immediately calls the police. It's kind of interesting and a little funny that O-Dog is the worst person in this movie, but he keeps getting off because he's like 15 years old or something. They let him off with a warning for a carjacking. What the hell? And they wonder why crime is so bad, especially since not 24 hours after being released, O-Dog kills a crackhead for trying his manhood.
What the fuck you just say, nigga?
Man, I said I suck your dick. Come on, man. Let's get the fuck.
The casualness of the violence in this movie is part of what makes it memorable, but it's also part of what also hurts it. Because nothing in the movie is ever really examined, it's just on to the next shocking moment. There is supposed to be some underneath commentary on how O-Dog's gun is an extension of his penis, and a character makes a joke later about how he never talks to women, but like everything else, it's not really explored much. The next scene is another classic scene from the movie when Kane is interrogated by Big Bill Duke, who was already a famous and experienced actor, and who the Hughes Brothers also claim came out of retirement to take this role. I don't know about that one. He did a ton of TV and movie roles after this, so clearly he felt like that retirement was a mistake. Or maybe he wanted to play the retirement angle for more money. Let me not speculate. What I will speculate on is the meaning behind this scene, since to my disappointment, everybody asked about it who worked on the movie claims there is none. But how can that be when they went out of their way to do blue and red lighting, which I always thought either represented good versus evil in a religious sense or good cop bad cop? That would have been interesting, but they claim, nah, we just thought it would look cool. Okay? How can a movie with so much obvious symbolism be about absolutely nothing? The rotating uninterrupted shots were also a nice touch and adds to the tension in a subtle way.
I didn't even have a record, but when they fingerprinted me, the cops matched my prints to the ones from that bottle I dropped in a liquor store the night of the robbery.
Oh, you mean this bottle? Yeah, that's highly unlikely. The interrogation is pretty funny, mostly because Bill Duke is scaring the shit out of Kane. He's not even hitting him with any real gotcha moments, but it's played up like he's about to go down for at least 15 years.
Yeah, it was 12:15, exact. If I'm not mistaken, it was 12.
Now you see something? Now you see now, you done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
The rest of the movie seems to be an exercise in how much they can make us hate this nigga. On one hand, he robs a dude for his gold dating rims, but at the same time, you can't help but love him because he's so funny with it.
Nigga, you know what the fuck I want, nigga. I want your motherfucking Dayton's and your motherfucking stereo. And I'll take a double burger with cheese. What?
Then we get a completely unnecessary scene showing Kane making crack. I mean, Superfly levels of unnecessary. So unnecessary, in fact, that the MPAA made them cut out a few steps, you know, so they wouldn't be actually teaching people how to make crack. An anti-drug movie, this is not. I mean, your movie being real is one thing. Your movie being an outright tutorial is a whole nother conversation. Man, this girl is a whole lot better than I remember. Maybe it's because we barely see her in the movie after this scene. Kane gets her number, and then the next thing we know,
Yeah, fuck.
alright man, damn, ain't nobody challenge you about it. He said it so matter-of-factly, and that look he gave was like, tell me I didn't so I could beat your ass. He's riding around with Sharif because he and his father is trying to convince Kane to move to Kansas to get away from all this nonsense. Sharif's father is Rock. He's a good guy in this movie, so I feel comfortable calling him Rock again. His speech is a little heavy-handed though. It's nothing like the gentrification speech by Furious and Boys in the Hood.
The hunt is on. And you're the prey.
He's still my dog though. Now would probably be a good time to leave, because between the gang violence and the police, something will get you eventually. Sharif and Kane get harassed by the police and get that ass whipped and left for dead. Well, if selling crack ain't good for nothing else, it's damn sure good for paying for all these hospital bills, damn. Not only is Sharif trying to get Kane to move to Kansas, but Ronnie got a new job in Atlanta, and she also wants Kane to come live with her and her son. And she ain't talking about as no friends either. She's down for a little entanglement. Kane still ain't convinced and has a sense of loyalty to Purnell, which is kind of admirable. But Ronnie ain't taking no for an answer. You know I just had this vagina steamed, right? This thing falling off the bone, boy. Kane ain't the only one trying to get some of that Ronnie rump roast. Apparently Chauncey been wanting it for a while, but hadn't gotten drunk enough to try his try, and I guess tonight is the night. If you was about a week earlier, you might have had a chance, but Kane done descended into madness and gives Chauncey a little bit of that whip appeal. Once again, if nothing else, the camera work in this movie is top notch. I love this pan here of the different rooms as they drag Kane away, and the shot of Ronnie's son witnessing the action, reminiscent of when Kane was a child, ending with the smooth transition to his bedroom the same night. As if things can't get any worse, the girl he had sex with the other day calls and says she's pregnant.
Then guess who's the daddy? Don't wanna fall for it.
Ever since this movie came out, I always thought that the girl was really pregnant and that Kane was just being an asshole for denying it. But nah, turns out, the way it was written, the girl was actually lying about the whole thing. The Hughes Brothers said that they made the mistake of having the girl overact in the scene, making you believe she was actually being truthful. She fooled me. In reality, she just wanted Kane to call her back after smashing and dashing. I wasn't the only one fooled by her shenanigans, because Bulldog from Tales from the Hood, or whatever his name is the girl's cousin, and he came to see about Kane, by himself, in the middle of Kane's hood. I'll let you guess how that turned out.
To the fucking
I don't think anybody in the history of cinema can make people hate them as much as this dude. He's always playing a despicable character. I bet he's a deacon at his church or something in real life. Ronnie and Kane do go see OG Bobby Johnson at the prison before they go, and Kane gets the last bit of reassurance that he needs to go ahead and leave with Ronnie. It's actually a pretty touching scene since Kane considers Purnell to be a father figure. Of course, it would have meant a lot more if we got more than just that one scene of them in the beginning of the movie. Man, what the hell you creeping for? That's how you know you're not living right, because why you so paranoid? Not everybody can handle an ass whipping like that and keep it moving. So Bulldog is ready to ride on Kane for his cousin's honor. I really like the no audio direction in this scene. The visual of them silently preparing for a drive-by is oddly unsettling and somehow makes you feel like you're there in the car, even if the actors themselves aren't even in a real car. They hide it well with these paper mache windows. To be real, this might be the best shot scene of the entire movie, next to the interrogation scene. Yeah, I know the audio dropping out is ripped straight from Boys in the Hood, but it still works here. My only wish is that I cared for Kane more when he gets shot. Yeah, he does do one final act of sacrifice and goodness by shielding Ronnie's son from the bullets, but he's been such an unlikable character up to this point that it's kind of hard to sympathize with him. He really didn't even want to make his life better. They had to force him into it. Shoot, I care more about them taking out my boy Sharif than Kane. Dude turned his life around and was moving far the hell away from this nonsense. He just wanted his boys to be as enlightened as him. They treat his death like an afterthought though.
Damn, Sharif.
While Kane gets damn near a motivational speech for a situation he indirectly caused.
Fight.
But wait a minute. Why did they decide to end the movie right there? We can't get a postscript or nothing? Not even a few words on the screen telling us what happened to everybody after this? There was one written with Ronnie and her son at the airport, but we didn't get to see it, so it doesn't count. Let's get to the grade. I feel like Menace to Society was between a rock and a hard place. It was always going to be compared to its predecessors, and the coming-of-age criminal story had already been told on both coasts of the country at this point. I do commend them for trying to make it a more in-your-face portrayal though, maximizing the violence and the worst aspects of living in the hood for shock value. But the disjointed and docudrama style of the film subsequently hurt it in my opinion. It could have benefited from a tighter story, with Kane working towards a more important goal, and making him more of a likable person, or at least relatable. He could have still done a lot of the things he did in the movie, but it would have been better if it was out of some kind of necessity, and not just because that's what dudes in the hood do. It just doesn't fit how the character was introduced, and I always felt like it was out of place to me. I'm not alone in this thinking, as the Hughes brothers themselves even felt indifferent towards the movie. Not outright calling it bad, but also not considering it good either. Luckily, the casting was on point, and the movie enhanced or started the major motion picture careers of several people, and the Hughes brothers themselves learned from this movie and made a 1,000 times better film with Dead Presidents right after it. Menace to Society is also shot very well, and you can't tell it's first-time filmmakers, which is a testament to the Hughes Brothers' talents. Critics at the time were mostly positive about Menace to Society, but if I had to grade it for 2022, my grade for Menace to Society is a C-. A few changes here or there would have put it on par with Boys in the Hood, or even Juice, but as we learned from the 90s, there's only so much you can do with the subject matter. And that does it for this episode of the BlackTrack. Let me know what you thought about the movie Menace to Society in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications to help me grow my channel. And until next time, I'll holler at you.